The episode with the title so delicious you just know it has to be fattening. Last time out, Sue Ellen honey-trapped JR with promises of sex, only to reveal that she's going to dupe everyone into believing she's the loving wife, long enough to dig up dirt on JR for their impending divorce. Also, resident worm Alan Beam tried to slither his way out from under JR's grasp, and wound up losing his girl, his other girl, and his job. JR arrives to a darkened home, which should be foreboding, but it's just a surprise party thrown by his doting wife Sue Ellen. Everyone tells him what a lucky guy he is. Everyone, that is, except for Sue Ellen's sister Kristin. Kristin spends the night in a jealous glower, but Sue Ellen shrugs her off and announces that Kristin will be leaving them for California in search of a man of her own. Sue Ellen throws cold water on JR's libido when they're alone, and a grumpy, horny, hungover JR shrugs off Bobby's plan to open up one of the Ewing oil wells to bring in more money. He also blows off a clingy Kristin in favor of seeing sex worker Serena. Serena hints at wanting more, but he's strictly cash and carry. Alan Beam slinks in and apologizes for screwing JR. Over. After losing it all, he wants to get back into the inner circle, but JR pretends not to know him and advises him to get out of Dallas while JR lets him. Breakups can be so harsh. Kristin is fed up with their arrangement, but JR calls her bluff and threatens to ship her off to California right now. She backs off and he gives her some cash for her troubles. He really is cash and carry. So that's 4 people he's dehumanized, and we're not even to the first commercial break. JR notices he's being followed, so he calls in his own private cop to take care of it. McSween sets a trap, but also mentions that Cliff Barnes has joined the DA's office. More on that in a future episode. Meanwhile, Miss Ellie is still trying to put a stop to Matt Devlin's development project. She doesn't like that he's going to turn the local park into an affordable housing project. He rightly points out that it's easy for her to say as she hoards all that land while there's a housing crisis. Matt dismisses her claims and invites her to lunch instead. Alan Beam shows up at Kristin's apartment and offers a truce. They get catty with one another, but Alan says he knows JR even better than Kristin. JR's thugs put the screws to the private dick Sue Ellen hired, see? And he stooches her out, see? Yeah, a real stool pigeon. Sue Ellen isn't flustered, though. She expected JR to find out, and she says that she's just doing to him what he did to her all those years. She also says that he doesn't have the guts to kill her, making her the second person in as many episodes to tempt fate.
But I fail to see what even you can do about this now.
JR does not in fact kill her, but he does enlist Kristin as a willing accomplice to drive Sue Ellen to drink again. Kristin agrees under the condition that he dump Sue Ellen and marry her. Given that Kristin was dumped by the wayside until the moment JR needed her, I'm not sure what her expected endgame is. Does she not think he'll dump her in a swimming pool and blame it on being whacked out on drugs? Not that he would ever do that. At lunch, Kristin fulfills her end, apologizing for the way that she's treated Sue Ellen and confessing to being JR's lover. And, as disingenuous as that seems, Kristin knows exactly how to pierce Sue Ellen's armor. By blaming their mother. This is an all too brief scene, but it works so perfectly in context with Season 2's For Love or Money. In that episode, Sue Ellen's mother chastised her for leaving JR, when all JR had done was cheat on her. After all, Patricia Shepard spent most of their teen years pushing their daughters to be perfect wives for rich husbands. And that programming has made Sue Ellen miserable, which is why she desperately tried to put Kristin off that path.
I didn't think you'd understand, Mama. But I thought you might.
So when Kristin blames their mother for her bad behavior and says she's seen the error of her ways, it hits Sue Ellen right in the Achilles heel. Then Kristin dumps liquor on her. Oops. Meanwhile, JR buys off Sue Ellen's private investigator and has him rewrite all those damning reports he wrote. At the ranch, Sheriff Washburn tells Jock and Ellie they can't ID the skeleton Ray dug up, so he can feel free to build his house. Sue Ellen arrives, still in her alcohol-soaked dress, which draws the suspicions of Jock. JR stokes those suspicions when he says he found an empty bottle in their bedroom, and Kristin puts the final nail in the coffin.
Was she drinking with you yesterday?
At lunch. She must have had 4 drinks.
When JR's hired goons pull over Sue Ellen on suspicion of drunken driving, she has no way to prove her innocence. especially since they didn't give her a sobriety test because she's a Ewing. Even Dr. Elby can't be certain that she hasn't started drinking again, but her explanation that her husband is working in tandem with her little sister to use police to drive her back to the sanitarium does seem a little far-fetched when you say it out loud. Like something a drunk would say, you know? Sue Ellen declares that she'll no longer be a victim and waits until the family is gathered to start dropping truth bombs. Oh, Sue Ellen, don't tell the truth. That's not a good idea. Sue Ellen shows them the reports, but JR's replaced them with the scrubbed reports that he bought off her PI. Now she just looks desperate because JR has given none of these people a reason to doubt his unimpeachable manner. JR calls the doctor to have her committed. And we're out. Well, this one didn't disappoint. Sue Ellen stepped up to go toe-to-toe with JR and got summarily body-checked back into her lane. That makes this incredibly frustrating if you're rooting for Sue Ellen to escape from under his thumb, but it is fantastic drama. This episode is also extremely tight, cutting back the ensemble to brief drops like the Alan-Kristin alliance and a gentle reminder about the dead guy who turned up on South Fork in favor of focusing solely on the heavyweight title fight between Sue Ellen and JR. There isn't much else to say about the episode besides the fact that it demonstrates just how woefully overmatched Sue Ellen is in this kind of fight. That just makes her look even more pathetic by the end and makes JR look all the more evil. But fortunes have a way of reversing themselves.